This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, in part 1, I told you about the origin story of witch hunts and witch trials, where this mindset came from, where it all began. And now we're heading to America, to a small village called Salem, where a group of little girls started screaming, and a whole town descended into chaos. This is the case of the Salem Witch Trials. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. Watch Out For That Tree,
Oh, God.
a.k.a. your favorite profiler's favorite profiler.
Your favorite profiler's favorite profiler. Okay.
Yeah. So whoever your favorite profiler is, I'm their favorite profiler.
All right. Your profiling skills have improved over the years.
I feel like they've been on point since the beginning. I just had to polish my delivery a little bit.
I think that's probably accurate. Yeah. I've known you way longer than we've done this podcast, and you're really good at reading people, but your delivery has been polished. Okay, we're back for part 2.
Yes, we are.
Part 2 of our witch hunt series. Well, it's only 2 parts. So is that still considered a series? If it's 2 parts?
It could be a mini-series.
Mini-series.
If something's 2 parts, I don't really look at it as a series. I look at it as like it's just a 2-part show.
Okay, so we'll call it a mini-series. And part 1 got some really good feedback, I will say. One of my friends did say that you didn't ask enough questions about what big words mean.
Because I get in trouble.
No, you don't. Don't lie. You don't get in trouble.
Or sometimes now I'm trying to not interrupt as much sometimes. And I think I'm like, oh, I need to ask what that means. But if I let Jess talk for like 2 more sentences, I forgot the word. So then I can't ask.
Your ADD is real. It kicks in.
Don't.
Makes you forget things fast.
I ain't got no ADD.
Bro. Everyone that listens knows you have ADD. You just don't know that.
Well,
you
they
have
think
ADD.
they're ADDologists.
Yeah, I guess they do. A lot of our listeners have ADD, so they can spot it in other people.
Everybody has. You know what gives you ADD?
What?
Boring shit. Not this, but like if something's boring, of course I'm gonna forget. That shit is boring. Or like as a kid, they're like, oh, he has ADD. I doubt it. You just asked him to sit down for 8 hours straight.
I know, it's true.
It just doesn't. It's not a one size fits all situation for ADD.
I think the classroom does do kids a disservice, especially kids who like have a lot of energy. Sitting stuck in a desk for 8 hours is a lot to ask of a kid.
Yeah, that's why I hated school.
Yeah. So we're back for part 2 of our witch limited series.
Limited series.
So in part 1, we talked about the birth of the witch panic, how fear, faith, and one man's bruised ego helped turn Europe into a hunting ground for so-called witches.
Freaking perverts.
Yep. We saw how Heinrich Kramer's obsession and the church's paranoia created this blueprint for centuries of innocent people being executed. We saw how 2 men turned witch hunting into a business. If you haven't listened, stop now and go listen to part 1. It's a history lesson for sure, but it's mixed with wrongful convictions, many executions, and Russ's interesting commentary, and it's insane.
Still just perverts. I knew they was going to get these women naked and be inappropriate eventually.
Yeah, for sure. But across the ocean, in a little Puritan village clinging to survival, that same mix of fear and righteousness was about to explode in a whole new way. Life in Salem was miserable, okay? Long winters, failing crops, constant fighting, and neighbors whose only hobby was gossiping.
Are we in Massachusetts, Salem
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And right in the middle of all that tension, a handful of little girls would light the match that would set fire to this community's way of life as they knew it. So let's pick up where we left off and dive into the real story of the Salem Witch Trials, not the Hollywood version from The Crucible, but the truth, which is so much darker. So by February of 1692, a small Puritan community in Massachusetts would become a mirror for everything that happens when fear becomes the law. Salem wasn't just a village, it was a Puritan experiment. So the Puritans, they left England decades earlier, breaking away from the Anglican Church. So at this point in England, there is Catholics and Protestants, right?
Mhm.
The Anglican Church was in England and was like the main church of England. And the Puritans wanted to leave, get away from that, and move across the ocean to build a new and improved place for their people. A place so righteous that they thought it would be the model for the new world. But righteousness has a way of turning into control.
Self-righteous herbs.
Puritan Massachusetts as a whole was a theocracy, right? So a theocracy means your spiritual life was your political life. So ministers held immense power, and any deviation from strict moral codes was seen as a threat to the entire community. So life in 1690s Salem was absolutely brutal. It was cold, bleak, and joyless. The kind of place where every sunrise meant another day of just surviving. The winters were long and vicious. Food ran low, crops failed, and disease spread through families who were already living on the edge of starvation.
Wow.
While I was writing this, one of my many sources was the last podcast on the left. They did a Salem Witch Trials series. Theirs was 4 episodes long. They went really deep in Salem. And one thing that they reiterated in their episode over and over again, it was like the motto for the episode, is life was hard and everything sucked.
Yeah.
And that's how it is in Salem.
Well, I was looking at a thing recently. I don't know if I ever brought this up, but they were talking about, would you rather be a poor person now or, or like the lower, still have a house, not homeless, or like a king back then? And they were like, poorer people live way better than kings did back then.
Really?
Yeah, like, they didn't have running water. Like,
True.
There was a lot of stuff. There was hygiene wasn't as good. There was no science.
Yeah, they took baths once a year. So remember, throughout this part of the story, it was awful there. In Salem Village, life was hard and everything sucked. The land was rocky and unforgiving. They had harsh storms that would wipe out entire things that they built. So like they would build a house and then these crazy storms would come and the entire thing would be knocked down.
Might be time to move.
Well, they moved all the way from England, so it's not like they're going back to England anytime soon. They're trying to build a new life in the new world. Well, the Puritans believed every hardship was a test from God. So every bad harvest, every stillborn child, every cow that dropped dead was seen as either a message from God or worse, the devil's work.
Satanic Panic, episode 1.
It was literally like the Satanic Panic, but way back then. Yes.
Yeah, and they were actually able to kill people back then.
They were also constantly terrified of attacks because the wars with the native tribes up north had already left a ton of villages burned to the ground and families slaughtered.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the Native Americans.
Yes. So people in Salem would hear these stories, and sometimes they could even see smoke in the distance, and it made the fear feel closer. It felt more personal. They thought a band of natives were going to come in and attack at any moment, and they were living with that fear every single day.
Yeah, they were crazy back then. I read a book about the Apaches, and they were ruthless. But
yeah.
I don't blame them for protecting their land at all.
No, I don't either. I mean, colonization, it was a really, really horrible time in history. Let's just say that.
I do love the Indian culture, how they like really appreciate nature.
Me too.
Like it seems so peaceful and nice, just appreciating the earth.
Yeah. Native tribe culture seems so amazing. There are tribes that are warring tribes. What are they called? Like they're aggressive tribes.
Probably that. See, but a little small fact, one of us in this room had an Indian bedroom as a child. I would like you to guess which one.
So when I was a kid, I became very obsessed with Native American culture for a while.
Oh boy.
Just like, I'm the same person. I was just a smaller version of myself. So I become hyper fixated and obsessed with things. And for a couple years, I was obsessed.
Years?
Yes, I was obsessed with Native American culture. And my grandmother took me to powwows, and it was so fun. And I had dream catchers in my room, and my mom built me a shelf that was shaped like a teepee. And I had like all these beautiful beadwork things in my room. I was just obsessed. I loved every aspect of it. And I was like, I loved it. I loved the whole culture. So yes, I had a Native American. And this was back in the 90s. I was a kid. Like, this was socially acceptable back then. It was all out of appreciation. I wasn't trying.
You thought you were Pocahontas? You remind me of that white lady that pretends she was black for the charities.
I was not trying to say I was Native, because I wasn't. I wasn't saying I was Native. I just loved all of the,
Listen,
of the
folks,
pictures
what happened was
and feathers and beadwork. I just loved all of it.
She watched Dancing with Wolves, and that was it.
I was not trying to appropriate anyone's culture. I was only like 9 years old, but...
Did you ever do a rain dance?
No, I would go to powwows with my grandmother.
That's fun.
My Gigi took me to a couple, and I just like completely fell in love with the costumes and the dancing and the drumming. I was a dancer my whole life. So for me, seeing these beautiful costumes and like their whole way, like the drum circles, like I was obsessed as a little kid.
You like dancing, so you're watching that.
Yeah, I loved it. So these Puritans, they thought that a band of natives was going to come in and attack them at any moment. So on top of life being horrible and everything sucking, and them not knowing the land and how to grow crops properly on it, because this is a different soil, this is a different place, they're in constant fear of native tribes coming in and attacking them. And they're living with that fear every single day. Inside the village, amongst the residents, things weren't much better. Neighbors feuded over property lines and church politics. Families split, whispering constantly about who was godly and who wasn't, who were the suspicious ones around them.
It sounds like being on social media, but in real life.
It does. Everyone was all up in everyone's business and at each other's throats. It sounds like a terrible place to live.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Haterville.
Yes. There was no music, no theater, no joy, just work, prayer, and paranoia. It was the perfect storm. Isolation, hunger, religious pressure, and trauma. And when you stack all of that on top of each other, it doesn't take much. One weird sound, one sick child, one bad harvest, and everything could fall apart. So one of the main characters of this story is a guy named Samuel Parris. He was a struggling merchant who, honestly, he wasn't really good at it. And he decided maybe he should instead try his hand at preaching. Remember, ministers had a lot of power in their communities. So he arrived in Salem from Barbados in 1689 to serve as Salem's new minister, and he was stepping into a hot mess. Parris was ambitious, but he was very unpopular in this community, which made him really insecure. He believed that the devil was not only real, but active, roaming the streets, tempting souls, plotting to destroy him and his church. So I'm going to set the stage. There were actually two Salems. One was Salem Town, which is modern-day Salem, and the other was Salem Village. And Salem Village was a smaller and poorer community than Salem Town, and it had about 500 people in it. Salem Village is where all of this goes down. By the late 1680s, Salem Village was deeply divided. They had gone through a bunch of ministers. Some of them quit, some of them were fired because the community couldn't agree on what kind of spiritual leadership they wanted or how much they were willing to pay for it. See, ministers weren't just given a salary from the community, but also firewood, housing, and farmland as part of their contract.
Not bad.
And these arrangements constantly sparked endless arguments with the villagers.
Oh, I bet. They're like, why does he get stuff for free just for talking to us? You know who he reminds me of, kind of? Reminds me of like a super in New York City. You get a free apartment in the building you work.
Yeah, you do. It's true. So like I said, Paris was this failed merchant. He was from Boston, and he turned to ministry after his business dealings in Barbados and New England went under. He came with a wife, 3 children, and 2 slaves, a woman named Tituba and a man named John Indian.
Oh, he's a piece of shit. Not John Indian, the guy who owns the slaves.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine any good person back then owning slaves. Like, just owning someone.
I know.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't compute in my brain. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it isn't like, oh, no, he was good to them. No. That ain't being good.
No, he saw them as less than human. I don't know all the details of how they recruited pastors back then, but just know that in 1688, they recruited him and he packed up his family and moved to Salem.
From Barbados?
Yes.
That sounds stupid.
Yeah,
you were on a tropical island and you went to the dark, dreary, cold Boston.
Yeah, well, Salem.
Salem.
Yeah. He was rigid, paranoid, and quick to see evil at work everywhere. Literally the last person Salem needed to run shit. He didn't help the community, who was already divided by land disputes and church politics. He fueled the toxic environment from his pulpit every Sunday. Some villagers supported him fiercely, while others despised him, calling him greedy and self-righteous. He constantly complained that his salary was too low and that he wasn't respected. So his personality was like not at all what this community needed. They needed somebody to bring them together, to give them positivity, and he was just fueling the toxicity.
So he just came there to try to rule with like an iron fist, because it seems like if you come there as a pastor, you're basically the king of the land.
Well, everybody's looking to you for guidance. And
Exactly.
to them, it's a theocracy, spiritual guidance, legal guidance. It's all mixed together. So when strange fits began affecting his daughter Betty and niece Abigail Williams in 1692, Paris's passionate sermons about the devil and moral decay added gasoline to the fire. His influence and authority as their minister gave legitimacy to the accusations that would soon follow and spiral completely out of control. In many ways, Salem didn't just find Samuel Parris, it created the perfect environment for a man like him to thrive. Parris's young daughter, Betty, who was 9, and his niece, Abigail Williams, who was 11, began to scream and convulse, their bodies twisting on the bed or the ground. They would scream and cry as if someone was hurting them. So Samuel immediately called the village doctor. The doctor came to the house and observed the girls and examined them and declared the only possible cause, of course.
The devil.
It had to be witchcraft. It has to be.
Oh, that's the shit I used to hear as a kid.
These girls are rolling around on the bed, rolling around on the floor, screaming, convulsing, and that's the only explanation that the doctor can come up with.
Maybe they smoke some K2.
Maybe.
That should be from making people do that.
It does. At first, it was just these 2 girls, but soon, other little girls joined in. Children from the powerful Putnam family began showing the same symptoms. They claimed invisible hands were pinching them, choking them, that spirits were tormenting them in their beds at night. And in a world where the devil was real, this explanation made perfect sense.
Do you know why this doesn't really happen anymore? Because kids have iPads.
True.
These kids didn't have no iPads.
So when those little girls started screaming, it didn't feel random. To the people of Salem, it felt like confirmation, like proof that all of their suffering finally had a name. The devil hadn't just been tempting them. He'd arrived. He and his demons were now living there among them. Those fits and shrieks weren't seen as a medical mystery or teenage drama. And once the village accepted that, every strange noise in the night, every bad dream, every person they didn't like, suddenly looked like part of the devil's army.
Wow. This guy's causing a lot of division.
This was a village of people living in constant fear that their life was going to fall apart and be destroyed. So seeing these girls rolling on the ground, shrieking in pain, claiming they were being tormented by witches, confirmed everything they always knew. The devil was using witches to destroy their life. A local woman, Mary Sibley, suggested a folk magic remedy she'd heard from an old English superstition, like using magic to combat magic. She told Paris's slave Tituba to bake what they called a witch cake. She mixed rye meal with the urine of the affected girls, baked it like bread, and fed it to the dog.
Weird. How did she get the kids pee? That's very weird.
They peed into like a bucket or something. What do you mean? The idea was that the animal, loyal to humans but sensitive to the supernatural, would react violently toward whoever had cursed the children. And this would reveal who the witch is. And it was meant as protection. But in Puritan eyes, it was witchcraft to bake this cake. Right?
See, I hate these people. Why are you going to feed a dog some piss cake?
So
screw these people.
So when Samuel Paris found out that his slave Tituba baked this cake, he was furious. And that fury turned quickly toward not Mary Sibley, who it was her idea in the first place, but his fury turned towards Tituba because she was the easiest person in Salem to blame.
She didn't probably have any rights because she was his property.
Yeah, she was his slave. Historians still debate her ethnicity. Some say she was Native American, others say African or mixed heritage, but what's clear is that she didn't belong in their world. She spoke differently, looked differently, prayed differently. She was brown, the only brown person in the village besides her husband, who was also a slave of Paris. To the Puritans, that alone was enough to make her suspicious. She cared for the Paris children. She told them stories from her homeland and may have taught them small bits of folk magic, like little charms and games just meant for fun. She once told the girls about a fortune-telling game where you can crack an egg into a glass bowl of water, and whatever shape the egg white makes will tell you your future. The girls did this right before the afflictions started, and they claimed they saw a coffin. So, of course, Tituba was to blame without question. And in a community obsessed with sin, that was more than enough to make her dangerous. When the girls began to scream and convulse, all eyes turned to Tituba. She was the outsider, the other, and that made her the perfect witch. So, the girls' fits continued, and now you got a whole group of them doing this. This uncontrollable crying, screaming, writhing in pain, rolling on the ground. And these girls started naming names.
Original Mean Girls, here they come.
Bridget Bishop was a woman who stood out in every possible way in Puritan Salem. And that was a very dangerous thing. She is what we would refer to as a baddie today, okay?
What, she got a BBL?
No. But Bridget, she was married 3 times. Her marriages were very stormy, especially her second one. Bridget and Thomas Oliver were often seen fighting in public, and townspeople whispered that she had hit him multiple times.
Was she Latina?
No.
She might be a Latina from the Bronx.
After his death, rumors spread that her temper or even witchcraft might have been what killed him. Her reputation never recovered after that. So unlike other women in Salem Village who were expected to be quiet and submissive, Bridget was outspoken, social, and by Puritan standards, downright flamboyant. She ran a tavern where there were card games and drinking, activities considered sinful by the Puritans around her. She wore bright red clothing all the time instead of the muted grays and browns like all the other women in town.
She had money.
She was known for her sarcastic wit, and she didn't fuck around. She was quick to put you in your place. She was my type of lady. I feel like I would have loved Bridget Bishop.
I wish you would idolize calm, nice women.
So the combination of her independence, her multiple marriages, and her defiance of Puritan norms made her the perfect scapegoat in a community who was already looking at her sideways.
Why don't they just mind their business? Why is everyone stuff's going bad? It's this random person's fault.
Yeah.
I'm over here doing whatever I'm doing. Get away from me.
The girls are. Everyone believes that these girls are being tormented by witches, and now the girls are naming names.
I'd beat them little kids up.
So Bridget was quickly accused. Several of the afflicted girls claimed her specter tormented them. So this is crazy. Back in the day, a specter was a spirit of a living person. Okay, so the girls claimed to see her specter around town at night, stealing eggs from people's farms, coming into their bedroom and pinching them, and others in the community eagerly piled on with stories that just confirmed suspicions about her. So it started off with, everybody's already looking at Bridget sideways to begin with.
They just don't like her, and any little reason, it seems like they'll just go with it.
Yeah.
And now these little witches are gonna point her out.
Yeah, they're pointing her out, and they're saying that
just because she got some style, some swag. They're all over here. Everybody's dressed in beige and shit.
Yeah,
it's probably brown
and she's wearing red.
Yeah, she's probably crunchy. She ain't even got a wash machine back then.
And these girls claimed that her specter was hurting them in the middle of the night and stealing things, and they saw her specter around town.
See, she don't got no problem hitting people. She needs to find those little kids.
It's true. So the girls would end up naming 4 women at first. Bridget Bishop, Sarah Good, who was a homeless beggar known for also being a little sarcastic and loud, Sarah Osborne, who was an older woman who was chronically ill and rarely attended church because she had a chronic illness.
Oh, my God.
And Tituba. These are what we call the usual suspects, right? The outsiders, the others.
They think no one will care about them.
Yeah, they're easy ones to blame. The question is, why did these girls pick them? I think it's because they heard the adults talking. They lived in one-room houses all the time. You had no privacy. It's not like the adults in the room had a secret adult conversation. The girls knew who the adults looked sideways at. It was all known, right? So the stage was set. And in March of 1692, the 4 women were brought before the village authorities. Tituba denied all the accusations at first, terrified, begging for her life. But when the questioning turned to threats and then torture, she completely broke. Not only was she tortured, but Tituba was also given a deal. Give up the names of other witches and we'll spare your life. So just like today, like we see all the time with jailhouse snitches, she started naming names.
Yeah, you're just trying to save your own life.
She confessed that, yes, the devil had come to her and that, yes, she had been told to harm the children.
See, this is interesting because I watched something recently on YouTube about a soldier talking about how torture does not work at all because he's tortured many people. And all they eventually do is just tell you what they think you want to hear that will get them off.
Absolutely.
Because he's tortured multiple people and they're all telling what they think he wants to hear, even if he knows the truth. So torture just doesn't work.
Well, that was completely proven in part 1 of this entire story, with 80,000 people who were tortured and executed in Europe, and most of them are false confessions because they were tortured and they just said whatever their torturers wanted them to say.
Yeah, maybe at the moment they just want the torturing to stop.
Exactly.
So they'll even say they did it to give them what they think is going to be a moment of relief.
Mm-hmm. So she confessed that, yes, the devil had come to her, and yes, she had been told to harm the children. Then she said something that changed everything. She claimed there was a network of witches operating all across Salem. And that one statement, that there was a secret army of witches, sent this entire town into chaos.
Oh, my God.
But you have to understand, from Tituba's perspective, she is a slave in a town alone with a bunch of white people who view her as property. She is subhuman to them.
Yeah.
She is the other. This is self-preservation. She didn't want to die. And she also, I'm sure, hated most of these people. Wouldn't you hate most of these people? I would.
I almost don't blame. I understand what she's doing.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It sucks, but I do understand.
She doesn't give a fuck about throwing these people under the bus to save herself.
They didn't have buses back then, Jess. They threw them under the wagon.
Whatever. You know what I mean. Sarah Good was also interrogated. And so was her 4-year-old daughter.
That's too far. Wait, you said interrogated or tortured?
Sarah Good was interrogated at first.
Oh.
And so was her 4-year-old daughter. They brought her 4-year-old daughter in for questioning.
Oh, all right. Well, I got a little nervous that you were going to say they tortured her.
No, but they brought a 4-year-old in to interrogate her about her mom. And you're going to laugh, but her daughter's name was Dorcas. And that is an old name. It's a Bible name. It's a name that a lot of people had back in this time.
Wow.
Dorcas was her name. So these men take this little girl and they interrogate her. And the little girl nodded and said yes when they asked if her mother was a witch. And that's all it took. They arrested Sarah Good and her daughter, 4-year-old Dorcas, and threw them both in jail.
Piece of shits.
From that moment, Salem's witch hunt became a machine that couldn't be stopped. Within weeks, the affliction spread to more little girls. In the middle of the church, during a Sunday service, they screamed in the middle of the sermons, claimed to see ghosts, and pointed their fingers at multiple neighbors. And Samuel Parris fanned the flames every Sunday from his pulpit, warning that the devil is among them.
He probably was just doing this because people are finally listening to him.
And people believed him because everyone already did believe in witches then. Everyone already did think their life was on the verge of collapse. This was just confirmation that their fears of the devil trying to destroy them is now their reality. So when the fear took root, it grew fast. And by spring, 81 people in the village of barely 500 had been accused, arrested, and thrown in jail. 81 out of 500.
That's like almost a quarter of their town.
Yeah. These jails were disgusting, okay? And these people sat in jail for months waiting their trial while the leaders got their shit together. The jails were so full that they were like, okay, we have to get this special court to prosecute these people because we're running out of room.
Wow, America started with putting in a ton of people in jail, and it's still going on today.
Mm-hmm. The Massachusetts governor, William Phips, came to Salem and established a special court for this purpose. And it was called the Court of Oye and Termine, which means to hear and determine. This court was going to move fast. Okay, no multi-day trials. You would be convicted in a matter of minutes based on the evidence your accusers had. It was supposed to bring order, but instead it legitimized the hysteria. And it's now an actual court that's trying witches. This makes all of this bullshit feel legitimate, right? We see this all the time today through propaganda in the media. Fear gets reinforced and legitimized, even if they are total lies, because someone powerful says it's true.
Yeah, and now fear makes all these media companies money because it gets you clicks.
Yep, it's
and
true.
Clicks get advertisers paying you.
Mm-hmm. The witch trials began in June of 1692, and the courtroom turned into a theater, okay? It was absolutely ridiculous. It was like a show. And for these people whose lives were horrible and boring, this was gold. The accused stood before all male judges, and they were denied lawyers. They were denied any mercy. The afflicted girls were brought into the courtroom and would collapse into violent fits, rolling on the floor, screaming, convulsing, every time an accused person would walk in. These girls claimed that the accused witch was clawing at them, and this was considered proof.
That was their science.
The court also allowed spectral evidence, which was so insane. So the ghost of not only the accused witch, but also any of their victims would terrorize the little girls, and this became the backbone of the trials. Only the accusers could see this evidence, and there was no way to disprove it. And that's how Bridget Bishop, the first to be tried, was condemned to death. She maintained her innocence, but was found guilty because of spectral evidence and hanged in June of 1692. The first person accused of witchcraft to be hanged in Salem. There's a big misconception about how the hangings worked, by the way, at the Salem Witch Trials. Most people imagine gallows with like trap doors that like in old Western movies.
Yeah.
That's not how this happened, okay? The convicted witches were taken to a rocky hill just outside of the town called Proctor's Ledge. And there was no drop floor, no snap of their neck, no quick death. Instead, the accused were forced to climb a ladder, and a rope was thrown over the limb of a sturdy tree. And once the noose was tightened, they were pushed off the ladder.
Wow.
Leaving them to slowly strangle. It could take anywhere from 2 to 8 minutes for them to die. And it was agonizing. They would have blood pouring out of their mouth. They would be shaking and convulsing, their bodies swinging back and forth. They would lose control of their bowels and bladder. It was a disgusting sight.
These little evil kids did all this.
Their bodies were left hanging for hours as a warning before being cut down and dumped into shallow graves near the site. None of them were given proper burials because the church refused to let witches rest in consecrated ground. So while pop culture shows this dramatic snap of the neck and instant justice, the reality is so much crueler and slower. And it was a public death. You have this whole crowd of people watching you.
It just shows that the town is just as evil. Everyone in it, because why would you want to be a part of that?
Mm-hmm. Sarah Good's story is incredibly tragic. Remember I told you they arrested her and her 4-year-old daughter? Well, her 4-year-old daughter, Dorcas, died in jail.
Wow.
Because the conditions were so horrendous. And Sarah was executed soon after. And I can't imagine the anger and sadness and agony she felt. Spending months in that jail. Her daughter died in there. And now she's being hanged for a crime she didn't commit.
And why isn't the community in an uproar about a little child? Like, fuck them.
Because they probably think she's the daughter of a witch and she might be a witch too.
Hang the whole town except for the good people. But then I'm one of them, so I don't hang nobody. I'd be like, I'm not hanging no one. I'm out of here.
Before her death, she cried out to the minister, "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard. If you take my life, God will give you blood to drink." Which is a reference from the Bible, actually. It's a reference from Leviticus, I think, one of the verses there. But really interestingly, years later, the same minister Nicholas Noyes, would die from a hemorrhage, blood pouring out of his mouth.
Good.
Salem, of course, remembered that as her curse coming true, and it was confirmation to them that they did the right thing.
I thought it would be confirmation they did the wrong thing.
No, to them, she said it.
Because she quoted the Bible.
But she said it before she died, and it was almost like, in their eyes, she cursed him.
Yeah.
Giles Corey was pressed to death with stones after refusing to enter a plea. So they laid him on the ground, and they put a large piece of wood on top of him, and they piled large rocks, hoping to extract a confession. But he refused, and he was crushed to death. But Giles Corey was so gangster. When they asked him for his final words, he just screamed out, "More weight."
Wow.
Yeah, because he refused to enter a plea, of not guilty or guilty. He was like, this is so ludicrous, I'm not even entering a plea. And his last words were, "More weight."
Because he definitely was thinking, they're going to kill me either way.
Yeah.
So at least, I'm going out, just being myself. Kudos to him, but
sad.
That's sad. Someone with that kind of strength could have been a real asset to a community.
Mm-hmm. As the summer of 1692 dragged on, even ministers began to question what they had unleashed. Among them was a guy named Cotton Mather, the son of one of New England's most powerful ministers. Cotton preached about witches and wrote a pamphlet about them, claiming they were real and they were agents of the devil. Cotton Mather was a very well-known minister in Massachusetts. So when he attended the trials in Salem, his presence alone was like a kind of endorsement for them. Like, oh, this must be real because Cotton is there and he's approving of it. But the cracks began to show. People started seeing their friends, their neighbors, even respected church members being hanged. People that previously were thought to be really good church-going folks. It just showed with evidence like hearsay and ghosts. Literally no one was safe.
They're going to run out of people in the damn town. These towns aren't like giant cities or nothing. Like, I bet they didn't kill like people that were necessary. Like, I bet if there was one blacksmith, he ain't never going to be a witch. We need him.
Yeah, true.
Know?
Rebecca Nurse, she was 71, deaf, frail, and everyone in Salem really loved her.
Wow, that's probably the oldest person to ever live back then. They used to die at like 40.
She was definitely old for that time. Her accusation shocked the entire community. She was a devout Christian, a mother of 8, and a respected matriarch, but her family's land disputes with neighbors made her vulnerable. Even after being initially acquitted, public pressure forced a retrial. Her execution was one of the most heartbreaking of all of them.
This is pissing me off.
One way the folks of Salem tested to see if you were a witch is to have the accused recite the Lord's Prayer, and they had to do it perfectly with no mistake. So they thought if you're a witch, you wouldn't be able to say the Lord's Prayer perfectly.
Yeah.
You'd make some type of mistake. But to them, a mistake could be literally saying "and" instead of, you could add any one little word or a syllable or an S on the end of a word, and that would be a mistake. George Burroughs, a former minister in Salem Village, was accused of leading the witches' coven and performing superhuman feats. He was condemned to death. He climbed up the ladder, and with the noose around his neck, he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly. And the crowd hesitated. They looked uneasily at each other, but the judges ignored it, and they pushed him off the ladder and hanged him anyway.
Moving the goalposts just to get what they want.
Yep. Sarah Wilds had been gossiped about for years because she'd been accused of having sex before marriage, and a stepdaughter who openly disliked her. Her second husband's daughter was not a fan of her. Old grudges came back to life during the trials, and her reputation did the rest. And she was condemned with little evidence because she was a victim of the town's like collective spite, you know?
They're just out for blood. It seems like everything in their town is just always going wrong, and they're just going to keep killing someone, blaming it on everything on one random person at a time.
Yeah. Elizabeth Howe was a devoted wife and mother, known for her kindness, but her neighbors never fully trusted her. When children in the area got sick or livestock died, she was blamed, even though her husband swore she was innocent. The fear and superstition completely drowned everything out. She was hanged, and her last words were prayers for mercy for the people who condemned her.
Wow.
Susanna Martin, known for her wit and stubborn spirit, she literally laughed off the accusations against her, which made things worse.
That'd be me. I'd be like, get away from me.
Her sarcasm and confidence enraged the court. And because she was very poor, it made her an easy target. Despite everything, she faced her death with courage. And her last words were her screaming, "I have no hand in witchcraft," right before they pushed her off the ladder. John Willard was a former constable who had helped arrest accused witches. And then John Willard turned against the hysteria because he was like, this is going way too far. And they quickly turned on him.
Yeah, I don't feel so bad. He did it to people. You, as the Bible says, you reap what you sow, fella.
Well, he was accused of murder, witchcraft, and working with the devil. And, you know, his change of heart after arresting accused witches cost him his life.
Yeah, well, he killed a lot of people. At least he got his point across, but he killed a lot of people.
So these hangings were back to back. Like, this is all happening in a matter of a couple months. It's just like one after the other. In 1692, between February and September, 200 people in and around Salem were accused. 30 were found guilty, 19 were executed, and 5 people died in jail awaiting their trial.
I'm surprised that many got off.
Yeah, I mean, 19 were executed, 30 were found guilty. So yeah, I mean, it's a decent amount got off. Cotton Mather's father, Increase Mather, who was also a really popular minister at the time, felt like this was getting out of hand, and he began to speak out about it. He said it was better for 10 witches to go free than one innocent person to die. And he finally denounced the use of spectral evidence. But this is after 19 people were hanged. And the spectral evidence was the cause of a lot of their executions.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me. But the real turning point came when the governor's own wife was accused. And suddenly, it wasn't just the poor and powerless. Now the hysteria had reached the elite. So of course, after Homeboy's wife was accused, he's like, okay, this is getting a little too much.
Ain't no such thing as witches.
We're going a little too far. And on October 29th, 1692, Governor Phipps dissolved the court of Oyer and Termine. The remaining prisoners were released. And just like that, as quickly as it began, this frenzy stopped.
And everyone's life still sucked.
Yeah. But Salem itself was destroyed in another way. It was destroyed spiritually. Neighbors no longer trusted one another. Families ran away. Samuel Parris, the minister who had stoked the flames, was forced out of the village in disgrace. In 1697, 5 years after the witch trials, they decided to hold a day of fasting and prayer in an act of repentance. And one of the judges, Samuel Sewall, publicly confessed his guilt. But this was just a way to make themselves feel better about it.
They should, well, if you confess your guilt, that means you're a murderer. So that means you should face the consequences.
Well, they
of a
didn't.
murderer.
All they did was fast and pray as an act of repentance to try to make themselves feel better.
I can't believe the family members didn't come get them.
Centuries later, in 1957, the state of Massachusetts formally apologized for the trials. This all started after the release of The Crucible. No, The Crucible isn't accurate. It's more like inspired by a true story. But the underlying theme is how dangerous mass hysteria can be, and it destroys communities. The Crucible isn't just about witches, it's about us and how quickly a community can turn on itself when paranoia takes over. People have always asked, were the little girls lying? Were they acting? Maybe some were. Maybe others believed that they were being harmed. But focusing only on them misses the whole truth here. The little girls might have lit the match, but it was the men in power who fanned the flames. Because you have to remember, these are little kids. Why are all of these adults allowing all of this to happen just based on some things that little kids say? It was the men in power who ran with this.
I blame them all.
Samuel Parris preached fear until it became policy. The judges turned gossip into gospel. Did you like that?
Mm-hmm.
The ministers
Bars.
The ministers defended torture and execution in the name of God. And the community let it happen. Because witch hunts are never really about witches. They're about control and confirming belief. In Trier, in England, in Salem, in every society that's ever burned or hanged its own people in the name of righteousness, it's the same story. Fear gets dressed up as morality. And what's most haunting is that same pattern repeats itself even today. Maybe not with public hangings or burnings, but with social media, outrage mobs, politics. The tools change, but the human instinct doesn't. Because the truth is, witch hunts never end. They just evolve. We like to think that witch hunts are a thing of the past, something we've outgrown, but they're not. They've just changed locations and excuses. Across parts of sub-Saharan Africa and India, thousands of people, many of them children, are still being accused of witchcraft every single year.
Children?
Get this, it's honestly insane. In some regions of Nigeria, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo and Ghana, accusations are so common that they have entire witch camps. These are villages where mostly older women live in exile after being blamed for deaths, crop failure, or bad luck. According to Amnesty International, there are hundreds of women living in these camps today. Some have lived there for decades. They were banished by their own families or communities.
Are these camps like jails, or could they come and go as they please?
Yeah, they can come and go as they please, but they've been banished from their communities, so they live there
It's crazy.
because they have nowhere to go.
It just shows how stupid people are. And that's us too, I guess. Without actual factual information, who knows what we would believe.
Mm-hmm. In Tanzania, in 2023, the UN reported an estimate of roughly 1,000 people being killed every year after witchcraft accusation. And most of these are elderly women with red eyes, which is a sign linked to witchcraft, but it's actually caused by cooking smoke.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe that still goes on.
In Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the panic has shifted to children. Pentecostal deliverance pastors perform public exorcisms, claiming to purge kids of demonic possession for a price. UNICEF has documented children as young as 3 to 5 years old being beaten, starved, or abandoned after being accused of being witches. The accusations usually come when a family faces poverty or tragedy, like a lost job or a sick parent or a failed harvest. They call in these pastors, who usually point at the youngest child in the room and claim that it's cursed. These pastors then perform a deliverance ceremony, and they make the children drink poison, causing them to vomit for hours. Some children die from this. And the children are then abused, abandoned, or worse, they're burned alive and murdered.
God.
There is a woman named Anya Loven, and I went down this whole rabbit hole watching videos of her. So she went viral in 2016. She was a Danish humanitarian worker in Nigeria, who saw an accused witch child that was starving. And you might have seen the picture online. She walked over to him because he was only 2 years old and he was starving. And she knelt down and gave him water and crackers in the middle of the village. And then she took him.
Hell yeah.
She didn't leave him there. And she named him Hope. And then she ended up, after taking him, she bought a piece of land, and her husband built an entire school for witch children, like accused witch children. And she named the organization Land of Hope. And it's a school and residence for these accused witch children. She currently, right now, has 96 children living in her facility.
They all would have been dead.
Yes, they all would have been dead. She has footage of the day she rescued them. So she is a beautiful human, and the Land of Hope Instagram is honestly heart-wrenching to watch the videos because she has videos of these deliverance ceremonies on them, and you can see them giving the kids poison and the kids just vomiting nonstop. You can see them like living out in the woods because the community has completely neglected them, and she'll go out in the woods and grab the kids, and then she'll take them. And then she has pictures of these kids a couple years later, and they look like completely different children.
Damn. See, I was about to look that up, but it's so sad. I don't want to, like... Well,
it's really
after you said that, like, it's tough.
It's heart-wrenching, but...
Does she have, like, a place you could help her?
Yeah. Her link is in her bio to give donations. Okay. And I watched interviews with her on YouTube. I watched many interviews. And I think if any missionaries are going to do any work to help children like this, in a situation where Christianity is being used to justify torture and murder of children, I think this would be a great thing for missionaries to go out and do and like prove that this is not what Christianity is about. If you want to support her work, you can follow her on Instagram at Land of Hope. And it's heart-wrenching, but it's necessary because this is happening every day. In India, witch accusations mostly target women in rural areas, usually widows, single mothers, or women who own their own land. Between 2016 and 2021, India's National Crime Records Bureau recorded over 500 murders tied directly to witchcraft accusations. In 2023 alone, several states reported mob lynchings of women who were accused witches in India. But this is a pattern, right? The pattern is always the same. It starts with fear, rumors, tragedy, accusation, and then violence. Just like in Trier, just like in England, Scotland, Ireland, and America. Because as I've said over and over, witch hunts aren't really about witches. Every witch hunt, past or present, is all the same. The instinct to say, they're not like us. They're the problem. They're dangerous. It's easy to hear these stories and think, I would have been different. I would have spoken up. It's easy to say, oh, well, those African or Indian countries aren't as smart as us. We would never do that. But would we? Are we? In our own way? Would you have been the witch, the one whispered about, doubted, punished for existing outside the lines? The loud one, the colorful one, the one who went against the grain? Okay, maybe you wouldn't be accused, but would you have defended her? Tried to stop it, voiced your anger? Or would you have been the one holding the torch, convinced with everything inside of you that you were defending the truth, that you were protecting your community? Maybe all of this lives inside us. Because witch and witch hunter aren't just roles from history, they're patterns. They show up every time we scapegoat someone for our own fear. Every time we dehumanize a group or cancel or mob or mock. When I was a kid, I watched that green witch melt away, and I thought it was justice.
Yeah.
But now I know better. The witch hunts were never about magic. They were about fear. And fear doesn't die.
Control.
Yes, control as well. It doesn't die, it just changes its focus. So ask yourself, in your own life, right now, would you be the witch or would you be the one who burned her? And that is the end of my series on witch hunts.
That was a closing one, but now you have to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be a witch or would you be the accuser or would,
I would 100% be a witch. Like, I know that.
But there was no witch and these girls weren't even doing stuff, so what have you been accused of being a witch?
That's what I'm saying. When I say, would you be the witch, I'm saying, would you be the one who lives outside of the lines of society, who would probably be accused of being a witch? Yeah, that would probably be me. Or I would be the person who took up for them, and then I'd be accused of being a witch because I would be defending them, because I have a bit of a history in my life of taking up for people and getting in trouble for it.
Who do you think I would have been?
I think you would have I think that you would have definitely either been an accused witch or taken up for them, because you don't go along with, you're not a conformer. You're not somebody who goes along with society. You have your own opinions and you don't give a shit what anyone thinks. And even if you were a religious person, I still don't see you conforming to any way of life. So you'd probably get in trouble because you would either have defended someone being accused or thought this was crazy. I don't foresee you being the type that could sit there and watch injustice happen and not say anything.
So I'll tell you who I'd be.
Who?
I'd be in that town. I'd be like, yo, you saw them hanging these ladies? I was just at the store with her. These motherfuckers is crazy. Let's ride out.
Where would you go, Russ?
South.
South to where?
I go to Miami. I hear it's going to be popping in 300 years. I'm going to get property over there, and my future generations are going to be rich as a bitch.
I mean, listen, like,
I'm just leaving. I'm leaving this town. That's it. I'm out. I don't know, but I'm not staying here where they're just hanging people. Like, what is wrong with these people? We're out of here.
Yeah,
we're going to disappear so fast. They're going to think we were witches and poofed into the sky.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. But when you think about your life now, like my last question to everybody listening is also in your life right now, not necessarily if you lived back then.
I'm still the same. Like they're crazy, I'm leaving.
In your life right now, are you the one who is conforming? The one who is afraid to stand up and say anything? I don't know. I think that if people really got honest with themselves, it'd be an interesting, introspective question to answer.
Well, today people think they're standing up and saying stuff by just posting stuff on social media. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you, all your people who just think you're annoying and crazy because no one has ever just changed their mind from a family or friend's social media post. It just doesn't happen. And that goes for me, you, everyone. Nobody's going to change their mind.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, shit, you're right. I should be liberal. Oh, shit, you're right. I should be, what's the other one? Right. Conservative. There you go.
Yeah. Well, it's this whole series I was completely obsessed with for so many reasons. But I found the whole Salem Witch Trials super interesting in the fact that this entire community of adults allowed these little kids to spark this mayhem. And no one stopped and was like, wait, are we really doing this? Like, people in charge didn't stop for a second and reel it in.
I don't think anyone stopped it because you would be accused and killed. There's a good chance it would happen to you. Yeah. So that's why I might not be the savior as well, unless it was like you getting hung or some shit. And then I'm going to shoot that shit up like Billy the Kid.
They didn't have guns back then.
They didn't have...
This is the 1600s. Right?
Oh, so they're going to catch these hands. I feel better about just a fist fight.
You would have been accused too. And you would have gotten hung.
Nah, I would have sent...
You can't fight everybody.
I would have sent them straight to the gulag.
Well, I don't know what the gulag is.
The gulag is in Call of Duty. When you die, you're not immediately dead. You go fight someone one-on-one to see who can come back. So it's kind of like, I guess, purgatory.
Oh.
And if you win, you get to go back in the game. If you lose,
You've said gulag before,
dead.
and I have no idea what you were talking about.
all the guys know.
Oh, okay. So the 15% of our listener base.
Hey,
and the 85% of our listener base had no idea what you were
we're
talking
the minority around here. No, there's a lot of women that play Warzone.
Okay.
Let us know if any of you ladies play Warzone.
So I really enjoyed researching this 2-part episode. I went hard with this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I found it really fascinating, the whole history of all of it. And I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts about all of this.
Me too. I could imagine there were so many more stories that you could have spoken about. It's endless. If they killed hundreds of people, there's hundreds of stories.
There's thousands.
Thousands.
I mean, I didn't even talk about multiple countries. I didn't talk about Scotland. I didn't talk about Ireland. And I didn't talk about other witch trials that happened here in America. Salem is the most popular one because of the Crucible.
What did they think a witch could actually do? That they just did magic?
They thought they were they were working for the devil to ruin their lives.
With magic?
Yes, you didn't listen to this whole story?
It's just so stupid that I'm questioning it.
Yes, they thought they were working with the devil to ruin life.
How come they never see them do magic? They're too sneaky?
Well, they believed that they believed in spectral evidence. So they believed that people saw the ghosts or the spirits of these witches.
I would have been the smartest person alive in that era.
Yeah.
Hands down. I would have been Albert Einstein.
Well, I just thought it was fascinating, but the amount of stories I left out is crazy. So if you guys are interested, like I said, one of my sources was that National Geographic multi-part series called Witches, The Truth Behind the Trial. I also listened to the last podcast on the Left's 4-episode Salem Witch Trials series. And then I did a ton of other documentaries and podcasts and just research online.
And you've probably had some of this knowledge in your head already.
I did because
you are a witch.
Because I just love the history of all of this. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning back in. Have a wonderful week. We're going to be recording the ghost story episode tomorrow.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
I did not know that.
So listen up for the ghost story. We'll release it on Halloween. I was planning to release it on Halloween.
Wait, Halloween's like in a couple days.
It is, yeah. So we'll be recording the ghost story episode tomorrow. Excited for that. We'll see how Russ reacts to these ghost stories that you guys have for us.
I think you all know.
Have a wonderful week, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.